Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is April the 24th, and I, like you, am thoroughly disgusted at the horror of the strikes that took place last night in Ukraine. Today, Donald Trump tweeting out, "Vladimir, stop it." And I can tell you right now, as of the time of this recording, there's no stopping in place. Air alarms are already raging again through the regions of Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Zaporizhia. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. It is devastating. There was a loss of 10 lives. There are still people unaccounted for. Hundreds are wounded. The largest strike, of course, in Kyiv. Additionally, Kharkiv was under massive assault. Also, Pavlograd and Zhytomyr. And our condolences for all of those that have lost their life. Today, I want to focus the video on truth. And as you can see in the thumbnail, I'm going to stand behind this 100% and tell you why. Vladimir Putin is in charge. And over the next 5, 6, 7 minutes, I'm going to try my very best to provide to you proof of why and how this is happening and what Donald Trump and many others in his leadership team are missing. They just are missing the most important point. And today I'm going to share it with you. Thank you for being here, liking, subscribing, and commenting. We're almost to 50,000 subscribers, and help me get there so that we can get more of the truth out to a larger audience. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you and look forward to your comments today on this video. As we go, this is where we start. Zelenskyy responded from South Africa on the strike. He said, 44 days since Ukraine agreed to a complete ceasefire and strikes. This was a proposal from the United States. There he goes. Perfect play, Zelenskyy. 44 days since Russia continues to kill people and avoid tough pressure and accountability for this. It is very important that everyone in the world sees and understands what is really happening. Approximately 70 missiles, including ballistic ones, and almost 150 more strike drones were used in that massive attack. Zelenskyy just saying, don't keep saying the ceasefire is about us. We're ready to completely 100% have a ceasefire, and this is what we get. Make sure you're looking at the right place and where the problem really lies. To be honest, this is interesting. Russian attack intensity after Donald Trump was sworn in, it is to the right of the red line. And the different lines represent different regions. You can see the intensity of attacks have ramped up since the Donald Trump administration came into power in January. And that also includes the Easter truce, so-called Easter truce, where we did have some quiet for a few hours, but the reality is the strikes have intensified immensely since Donald Trump has been in office. But that's not why we're going to talk about Vladimir Putin's absolutely in control. I submit to you today, and I look forward to your comments. Trump is being played by Putin. Number one, he has a misunderstanding of what peace means. You see, when he talks about peace, he's talking about his perspective of peace as a rich oligarch, billionaire, and the president of the United States. He's got his mentality of peace, but he has no concept of what true peace means. In a war-torn nation, in a nation that is trying to break forth from the chains of the Soviet Union and be free. And yes, I refer to the Soviet Union, Russia, modern-day Russia, the Kremlin, the evil dictator Putin. So first of all, we're dealing with a premise where his view of peace is not the same view that Zelenskyy has, or for sure, Vladimir Putin has. Donald Trump is surrounded by anti-Ukraine narrative. I remind you, it was the Trump administration that even allowed Kirill Dmitriev into the White House just weeks ago to negotiate with Witkoff and to speak with Senator Lindsey Graham. We have the rhetoric that comes from his son, Donald Trump Jr., which is pure venom and evil spewing out from his own son. Then we have all the other narratives that are floating around him constantly with the anti-Ukraine, with the bigotry against Zelenskyy, and the false narratives that come directly from Vladimir Putin. Therefore, number three, he's obviously aligned with the Russian narrative. That is easy to see. And he still believes that Putin will listen to him. Here's Donald Trump just today.
President Trump, sir, today you told Vladimir Putin to stop with the attacks. Do you think he'll listen to you? Do you think there's still a chance for peace?
That's all you get. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Do you think Vladimir Putin will listen to you? I do. Yeah. And walks into the White House. You see, he is still focused on his idea of personal patience. My patience is wearing thin. It's his perspective of patience, but he has no understanding of the reality of war. And today, Zelenskyy, while in South Africa, and I can tell you, Zelenskyy is on the way back to Ukraine, cutting his trip short due to the massive strikes, getting back to his people like a great wartime president and leader should be. He will lead by example. But Zelenskyy sets the record straight today in South Africa in the reference to peace. And this is what he says.
It doesn't work like that. If Russia says it's ready for a ceasefire, they must stop massive strikes on Ukraine. Patience is wearing thin. I don't know what's going on inside, but Ukrainians can't take it anymore. We're the ones under attack, no one else. I don't wish this on anyone, but we're under Russian missile attacks.
There you have it. The peace narrative and the patience talk. My patience is wearing thin. My patience is wearing thin. He goes, what kind of patience are you talking about inside over there? We are the ones under attack. We are the ones dealing with this on a daily basis. You see, everything is focused intrinsically in the Donald Trump world. And that is how he views everything. That is why he spews out the rhetoric that he does consistently, whether it be in regard to tariffs, Greenland, Canada, Mexico, and the list can go on and on and on. That is what he does. It's about his view, his timeline. But ladies and gentlemen, even Fox News now coming out and saying, you know, I don't have a clue what he's talking about. And here it is, Brit Hume. This is golden.
I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelenskyy, and I hope that Zelenskyy, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelenskyy. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think we have a deal with both.
That obviously was the president, not the White House press secretary, but saying that they're disappointed in Zelenskyy, but they're moving forward.
Get him, Britt.
You know, he keeps pounding Zelenskyy and saying it's harder to deal with him than it is with Putin. Putin, so far as I can tell, hasn't agreed to much of anything, except, yes, he'd love to annex Crimea, which is part of the proposal that's before him now. That's no concession. That's just all that is taking a gain. Zelenskyy resists that because Crimea, up until the Russia invaded it 10 years or so ago, was part of Ukraine. So I'm not exactly sure what the president is talking about when he says that Zelenskyy has been more difficult to deal with than Putin. You know, there have been a series of ceasefire proposals. Putin either hasn't agreed to them or has immediately broken them. I'm not sure, what concessions Putin will ever be willing to make, but he certainly hadn't made very many so far.
There is the most truthful statement that has come out of Fox News or any media organization. Honestly, Brit Hume, he nailed it. And that is, I don't know what the president's talking about. Why is Zelenskyy the hard one to work with? It's Putin who's the hard one to work with. Crimea is Ukraine. What is the problem here? It's Russia that continues to strike. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about is it's obvious that Trump is, the narrative is, the viewpoint is, first of all, about himself, and secondly, absolutely manipulated out of the Kremlin. There's no question, guys. And to think it's any other way, that's so naive. Every action he's taken, and don't worry about he tweets out, oh, Vladimir, stop the missiles. It's just a show, guys. It's a show. And we will continue to unfold why now. This is what I call the Putin play. This is the Putin play. Putin's willingness to negotiate and cooperate is and always will be an illusion. Putin does what he wants and what he is able to do. Ladies and gentlemen, 30 years working in Russia, 28 years working in Ukraine. The Kremlin always acts in its own interest, period. Who does that sound like? Donald Trump only acts in his interest. The Kremlin has no partners, only slaves or masters. Sounds pretty much like what we hear coming out of the Trump administration right now. Russia, now this is the difference, has dreamed for decades of weakening the U.S. and taking the power away. Now, the United States has dreamed about that through the Cold War when we were led by other administrations, but now it seems all the administration wants to do is actually empower the regime of Putin, who wants to destroy the USA, so we're helping them do that. Putin is increasing the strikes on Ukrainian cities and killing children during the negotiation process, with the United States not just to torture, terrorize, and strengthening negotiation positions. No, his goal is, among other things, to make the American president, Donald Trump, an accomplice to the war. So I will just put this out here now. If we go over the next few days and Donald Trump washes his hands of Ukraine, not going to say it's going to happen, but we'll see, and sanctions are relaxed or lifted upon Russia, then it is absolutely golden ding ding bell for Vladimir Putin, because then the president of the United States becomes an accomplice to the war and the funding. Proper diplomacy with Putin, this is how it needs to be, is enforcing peace through strength. And everybody's ripping, especially the Trump administration, ripping Vladimir Zelenskyy for always saying peace through strength. I thought that was what the American narrative used to be. Negotiating with Putin is not negotiating with an equal. And today, I think, we've got the information coming out of Peskov that Witkoff will be with Putin. And, you know, it's equals. We're brothers. We're buddies. We're exchanging paintings. We're talking about minerals together. No, negotiating with Putin is not negotiating with an equal. It's not negotiating with a politician or a president or a businessman. It's negotiating with the head of a mafia and terrorist organization. And until that is understood, nothing will change. I'm not trying to be negative, but that's the reality of it. You cannot look at Vladimir Putin as an equal, a politician, a businessman. He is a terrorist. This is what has to change. Zakharova, let me show you how a terroristic regime speaks and spews venom. This is the official spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry of Ukraine. She works under Sergei Lavrov. And guys, just listen to what she's spewing out today. And this is what Trump wants to negotiate with.
Let's take a look at what's happening behind the scenes in world diplomacy. As you know, on April 23rd, a second round of consultations was planned in London between U.S. representatives and their British, French, and German colleagues, as well as a delegation from Kiev on the topic of the Ukrainian crisis. But in reality, it was stated that these consultations should focus not so much on the crisis itself, but rather on its resolution. According to Western media reports, the plan was to discuss a 7-point plan from Washington that was intended to pave the way for a peaceful settlement. The day before, Zelenskyy, apparently still high on something, categorically refused to make any concessions and announced the legal non-recognition of Crimea's incorporation into Russia, as he put it, and defiantly expressed a desire to negotiate only a ceasefire, and only on Zelenskyy's own terms. Well, the Kiev regime's schizophrenic approach has once again shown their complete inability to negotiate, irresponsibility, and desire to continue this massacre to the last Ukrainian, regardless of the casualties. Why would they care about the victims? Why should they consider anyone? Zelenskyy stopped seeing his citizens as people long ago. We saw this with the residents of Donbass. Now it has spread to the rest of Ukraine's regions. And the money? The money isn't his either. He didn't earn it. The money is just sent to him. Well, of course, in exchange for Ukraine's resources, natural resources, and land. But it's not like Zelenskyy created those either.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is today Zakharova speaking and spewing out pure venom. Zelensky's high. Zelenskyy actually is dealing in bad faith talking about Crimea because it's ours. I guess that's because he pulled the ace out of the back of his pocket and said, no, actually, the United States and the Donald Trump administration has signed off on it in 2018. And Pompeo, the Secretary of State at that time, also made the statement that Crimea is Ukraine. Period. End of story. But they will twist it. They will turn it. They will twist it. They will turn it. Then she moves it to schizophrenia. And then she goes to the money narrative. And Zelenskyy, it's all about the money. And then there's no care for their own people. They're just going to die to the very last Ukrainian. It's exactly what you will hear come out of Washington, D.C. day after day after day. How can you not see it clearly that the Putin regime is pulling the strings on the Trump narrative in regard to Ukraine? I'm sorry to say, but it is obviously clear. And today, President Macron dropped serious truth. I have that video for you. It is voiced over and he speaks fast. So I did my best to keep up with him. And so for all of you guys there in France, vive la France. Forgive me if I missed some words there, but Macron fired up and dropping the truth for Donald Trump. And we're going to see what the response will be. Here it is. Under American impetus, President Zelenskyy has made an amazing gesture. He said, I agree to an unconditional ceasefire. The only thing we have to do, the only thing, I said it again to President Trump when I spoke to him 2 nights ago. The only thing is that finally President Putin must stop telling lies. When President Putin speaks to the American negotiators, he tells them he wants peace. When he speaks to the world, he says he wants peace, but he continues to bombard Ukraine and kill people inside Ukraine. We are waiting for just one answer. Does Putin agree to an unconditional ceasefire? The Americans have proposed it. The Europeans support it. President Zelenskyy has said yes. If President Putin says yes, the weapons fall silent and lives are saved. The international community has just one thing left to do, and America's irritation must be directed toward a single person, President Putin. He must respond to the question asked of him, and from that moment, we will be able to build a fair, solid, sustainable peace. Holy moly. How about that, Macron? Calling out, I've talked to Trump. I speak to him, and there's only one person that needs to answer this, Vladimir Putin. He is the one that should do the ceasefire. It's not about Zelenskyy. They've been ready. Just like Zelenskyy said 44 days ago, we're ready for a full ceasefire, and then we can negotiate, and then we can talk, and then we can come up with a plan for peace. But no, Putin is a liar. That is exactly what the president of France just blasted out on the airwaves today. He is a liar, and the Trump administration is listening to the liar. Witkoff will be there tomorrow listening to the liar. I hope I've done enough to validate my thumbnail title for you guys. This is why Putin's pulling the strings on this. All he has to do is say ceasefire. That's it. And instantly the weapons go quiet. Beautiful point, President Macron.
Слава Україні!
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've tried to lay it out the best I can. This is what we're seeing. I can also tell you right now, as you can see, when we started the video update today, it was these regions that were under air alarm, and now we've added Chernihiv. So you can see what the Russian narrative, what the Russian plan is. We already know that anyway, but we'll continue to stand for freedom, fight for truth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, and commenting. There's a lot of things unfolding right now, so we may be back later with another video. But make sure you have that notification button on. Thank you for commenting. What are your thoughts on some of the things you've heard and the narrative I've laid out today? Appreciate all of you. Be blessed.